Okay, cool. There we go. Guys, let's give it one more time for Laban, Josh, and Jaden. They put a lot of effort into take care of us. Okay, cool. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Foster. I'm a college intern with Global Youth Ministries up in Chatsworth. I want to apologize ahead of time if I don't know you. I'm sorry. I'm trying to still get to know everybody. It takes me a little while. One thing I do want to thank you guys for is how friendly and welcoming you've been since Katie, Lizzie, and I have come here. I've volunteered with a lot of churches back in Florida where I'm from, and a lot of them are not very welcoming when they have new people come in. A lot of them are also not as unified as you guys. I noticed one thing right away since I came in here was how connected all you guys were, the high school, middle school, guys and girls. And that was just a really awesome thing to notice. So tonight, I have a quick question. How many of you guys have ever done something really stupid, and like you realize it right afterwards, you're like, oh, that was so bad. I'm going to share a story with you guys, okay? When I was in Florida, I used to work at Chick-fil-A. Yeah. Amen, right? The holy chicken. So I used to work there, and one day, we hired this cute girl named Cassie. And this is a great story. So this was a few years ago, and Cassie started working there. She loved Jesus, which was awesome. She was fun, which was awesome. She laughed at my stupid jokes, which was double awesome. And she was kind of cute. So we started hanging out with some mutual friends and all that, and over a couple months, I started thinking, you know, I'm going to ask Cassie out on a date. I was super excited. So I worked up courage over a couple months in the mirror and asking friends for advice. And I finally walked in one day, and Cassie was working, I was not, and I enjoyed my chicken sandwich with some Chick-fil-A sauce. And I walked in the back, and I walked up to Cassie, and I was like, hey, Cassie, how you doing today? She thought I'd talk and said something funny and all that. And I was like, Cassie, I just want to know, would you want to hang out sometime and go get dinner? Cassie's face turns beet red. Immediately, I was like, oh, that was a bad idea. That was such a bad idea. And she just stands there with her mouth open like this. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, it's okay, you can say no. It's cool. We'll talk later. And so it was a super awkward moment, and it was just one of those times where you're like, yeah, I really didn't think that went through. I guess I misread that. But there's a guy in the Bible, his name's Peter, and I feel like I relate to him really well, because he has a lot of those moments where he does something really dumb, and right afterwards, either him, one of the apostles, or Jesus is just like, Peter, why did you do that? That's stupid. Like, there's literally a scene where Jesus is talking with Peter, and he says, Peter, I'm going to make you the rock of my church. You're going to be the foundation that I build the rest of my church on. Jesus just giving Peter an awesome compliment. And literally within 2 sentences, Jesus looks at him and says, Peter, that's a stupid idea. You're talking to Satan right now. Get behind me. He goes from being complimented by Jesus to being accused of following Satan. Peter has many more moments like this. What I want to focus on tonight, though, is Peter's denial of Jesus and what Jesus did afterwards. Somebody shared this story with me years back. I've never put two pieces together because they're separated by a couple books. But there's a very significant thing with Peter actually denying Jesus and what Jesus' response was afterwards. So if you have a Bible, go ahead and open it with me. I think I'm going to start in Matthew real quick. In Matthew 26. Okay, so Matthew 26. So what's going on in this passage right here is Jesus is about to be betrayed. Judas has already gone to the high priest, and he's accepted silver to betray Jesus to them in a private area where none of the citizens will be able to see. The problem that the high priest had with just grabbing Jesus off the street was people loved Jesus. He did great things. He healed them, he taught them, he loved them. So if the high priest were to just come up and throw him in jail, they would incite riots, and they would look bad. So Judas has planned with the priest at this point, hey, Jesus goes out to the garden every once in a while to pray, nobody's there, we can steal him. And so Jesus and his disciples are going up to the garden. Jesus knows it's that time, it's right after Passover, and Jesus has this discussion with Peter. And he says, he's telling all the disciples, he's like, you're all going to fall away from me. What's about to happen, you don't understand, but you all desert me. And he says specifically to Peter, Peter replies after this point, though they all fall away because of you, I will never fall away. And Jesus looked at Peter and said, truly I tell you, this very night, Peter, before the rooster crows 3 times, you will deny me 3 times. And Peter said to him, even if I must die with you, I will not deny you. And all the disciples said the same. So what we see in this passage right here is Peter's character. Peter was one of the first disciples that Jesus ever got to follow. When Jesus first started his ministry, he went out to the boat where he saw Simon Peter and his brother Andrew working with their father, who was also a fisherman, and he said to them, come and follow me. And Peter immediately, with his brother, dropped everything he had and followed after Jesus. No question, didn't apologize to their father, nothing. They immediately left. They could tell that something was special about Jesus, that he had things that were not common in this world, and they followed him. So we know that Peter had a desire for Jesus, and throughout the Gospels, we see that Peter was one of Jesus' kind of favorites. He was the one that Jesus interacted with a lot. He had a lot of moments, a lot of more correction moments where Peter would put his foot in his mouth, and Jesus was like, all right, let's take that blasphemy back and reword that a little bit. But he was very close to Jesus. And what we just read, we saw that Peter saying, Lord, even if something bad's going to happen, I'll still be here. I'm not going to fall. I'm going to be there with you. The night goes on, and Jesus gets taken into captivity. He gets brought before the high council, and it says in Luke chapter, I don't think I have that one down, but it says that literally all the disciples left him, every single one of them. So in Jesus' greatest moment, when he is being captured, he's being taken away, and he knows what's about to come, he doesn't have a single friend or person there to defend him, there to be by his side, there to stand with him in this moment. Even Peter has left. Now, as he's going, though, Peter and John follow at a distance. John ends up going to the house where Jesus is being questioned because he knows the high priest. Peter, on the other hand, has to stay out in the courtyard. And we read in Luke chapter 22, just as Jesus predicted, Peter denies Jesus 3 times. It says they seized him, Jesus, and led him away, bringing him into the high priest's house, and Peter was following at a distance. And when they had kindled a fire in the middle of the courtyard and sat down together, Peter sat down among them. Then the servant girl, seeing him as he sat in the light, and looking closely at him, said, "This man also was with him." But Peter denied it, saying, "Woman, I don't know him." And a little later, someone else saw him and said, "You also are one of them." But Peter said, "Man, I am not." And after an interval of about an hour, still another insisted, "Certainly this man was with him, for he too is a Galilean." But Peter said, "Man, I do not know what you are talking about." And immediately, while he was still speaking, the rooster crowed. And the Lord turned and looked at Peter. And Peter remembered the saying of the Lord, how he had said to him, "Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times." And he went out and wept bitterly. So in this moment, Peter's literally just denied his best friend in his greatest hour of need. Jesus is inside right now, and then there's early passages that talk about what's going on. Jesus is literally being punched, beaten, being flogged, being insulted, and he doesn't rise to his own defense because he's doing what he came here to do. He came here for everyone. He came here for Peter, who is sitting outside right now saying, I don't know Jesus, don't look at me, don't associate me with him. I want nothing to do with that man. And Peter doesn't even realize it until the last minute when Jesus literally locks eyes with him and says, "Peter, you are my best friend." And Peter makes eyes with him and he understands. And he sees, I just stabbed my best friend in the back. And he didn't know what to do. It says he got up and wept and left. There was nothing else for him to do. Now, denying Jesus has a lot of implications. A lot of times we take from that passage that denying Jesus is saying, literally, "Oh, I don't know who Jesus is," when really we do. And that is, in fact, a way to deny Jesus. And if somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey," holds a gun to your head, how many of you guys have heard about Columbine? That's a little before your time. Okay. For those of you who don't know, Columbine was a school in Colorado, I believe, and there was a shooting one day. A kid came to school, he had a lot of assault rifles and handguns, and he went through school and he planned this out. And he went around and just shot kids. I forget exactly the reason why. I think he was bullied and he kind of just had enough. And he went around and he got to the library at one point and it had shot a couple people. And he went up to a girl, I can't remember her name. What was it? Say it again? Rachel. You know her last name? But she's got a fund after her for this stuff, and I think she's got a book that her parents wrote. But he came up to her, this 16, 17-year-old girl, and he holds a gun to her head. And he says, "Rachel, do you believe in God?" And she looks him dead in the eyes and says, "Yes, I do." And this kid pulls the trigger on her. She drops dead right there in the library. So right there, she did not deny Jesus. But that's also an extreme case. Denying Jesus, to understand that we think, what is Jesus? Jesus is love. He's joy. He's justice. He's right. He's discipline when we need it. When we deny doing any of these things for his name, that's also denying him. When we walk through, and I used to have this a lot when I was in high school, and you feel a conviction inside, and you're like, I need to go do this. I need to go apologize to someone, or I need to go talk to this kid who nobody talks with, or I need to go confront my parents, or I need to go confront my best friend who's doing something right now that could get in a lot of trouble. And we say, golly, that's going to be awkward. That's denying Jesus. It's not just the aspect of saying, I don't know his name. When I was 17, I was called to go to a mission trip to Africa, which was awesome. I went with a friend and a group of about 12, 14 doctors. We were doing medical work and also building a church out in a tribe, like the ones you see in the movies, little huts and all that. We were literally out in the bush. And while we're going over there, they have kind of a training session. They're talking us through it. I've never been on a mission trip before. I'm very young. And so they're telling us, this was back in 2008 or 9, so there's still a lot of tension going on in that area between Muslims and Christians. And they told us, hey, when we go over there, we're going to be landing in Casablanca, which is in Morocco, off on the coast of Africa, and it's a very high Muslim country. And they told us, just when we go over there, try not to stand out. Don't do anything weird, don't do anything to draw attention to you. Go over there, be polite, be a Christian, be an American, but don't be the traditional American people think of where you're loud and demanding your way and throwing money left and right because we come from the land of the free and the brave. They said, go over there, be respectful, but keep a low profile, because stuff happens. So, never going out of the country before, I'm terrified. I see myself having like a black bag put over my head, being dragged through the hallways of this airport, never see anybody again. And so we get there, we're a little jet lagged, and we're sitting at the terminal for our next flight. We're flying down from Morocco to a little country called Burkina Faso. And I'm sitting about 20 yards away from my team. Okay, maybe not 20 yards, maybe about 10, 15 yards, probably about that wall over there. I'm sitting there, and I just kind of have my journal out, and I'm journaling, and having a little bit of quiet time. And this man comes up to me out of nowhere. And he taps me on the shoulder, and I look over, and he's about 6'2". He's wearing traditional tribal dress, which is very colorful, but you can tell, especially if you're from the United States or any Western culture, it's not what we would consider normal. So right off, I'm like, dang, this guy's kind of sketchy. And so he comes up to me, he doesn't say anything like, hey, my name's so-and-so, or hey, how you doing, can I interest you, or hey, you're sitting in my spot. He says, excuse me, I saw you sitting there, I just want to know, are you a Christian? So I'm sitting here like this, and I'm going, oh my God, this is it. He's going to pull the black bag and open it. This is how it ends in an airport, halfway around the world. And so I look at the man, and you know what? I was like, I'm here. I'm on a mission trip. So I looked and I said, yes, sir, I am. But that's not what happened. See, I looked at the man, and at first I feigned ignorance. I looked at him and I said, I'm sorry, I don't understand. Because in my mind, I'm also thinking, why would that be your first question? Why wouldn't you say, hey, excuse me, are you an American? Hey, are you a tourist? Hey, are you a foreigner? Hey, are you stupid? Anything other than, hey, are you a Christian? And so I look at him like, I don't understand. And he goes, I just want to know, I see you sitting here. I see your group down there. How did you know it's part of the group? I see your group down there. I just want to know, are you a Christian? And I looked him dead in the eyes and I said, no, sir. And he just kind of looked at me confused for a minute. And he said, okay, I'm sorry. Sorry to bother you. And he steps off. And just like Peter, as soon as I said it, it hit me. And I sat there in my seat, looking out the window, and I started to cry. Because I didn't think of it when I was saying the words. No, I don't know Jesus. I didn't think it until afterwards. After he'd apologized, I realized I literally just told him, I don't know Jesus. I just stabbed Jesus in the back. And to this day, I will say that is my saddest moment of life, is that thing right there. Because it showed that I cared more about other stuff. Now, was I afraid? Yes. Was it a justified fear? Yes, I think so. Did it justify me betraying Jesus? Not in any way, shape, or form. And for years, I struggled with that. Like, I felt so bad. I was like, Lord, you're totally justified if you don't want to accept me in heaven when I die. I totally understand. I denied you right here. I understand that. I would find no fault in that. But then, a couple years after that, somebody pointed out, I was talking with a mentor of mine. He was teaching on Peter. And he pointed out a neat little passage. And the first piece, book open, there we go. The first piece, okay, the first piece is at the end of Mark. Now this is just after the resurrection. Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, have run up to the tomb with the intention they're bringing oils. In their day, when you wrap somebody, you put oil on them to keep the scent down. It was a way of honoring them, it was a way of preserving them, kind of similar to what the Egyptians do with mummies. They put oils in embalming fluid to preserve them. In the Hebrews' day, they didn't do it to preserve them, they did it just to keep them smelling nice, to be polite to their body. So they're coming up to this tomb, which has a giant stone in it, with these oils. And as they run up, the stone's gone, the guards are dazed. They walk inside, and they see a man in white standing there in front of an empty altar where Jesus was laid. And in all the other Gospels, it says that he told Mary and them to go out, tell the disciples, yada yada. But in this one right here in Luke, it says in verse 7, but go tell his disciples and Peter that he is going before you to Galilee. There you will see him just as he told you. Jesus has made a special distinction right here to tell this angel to include Peter, as opposed to just saying the disciples. Because he could have just said, hey, when Mary and them come, tell them to go find the disciples, meet at the lake, we're going to have a fish fry, it's gold. I'll explain everything there. But no, he said, tell them to go find the disciples and Peter. Now, when Peter denied Jesus, like when I denied Jesus, it weighs on you. And Satan loves to use anything we have to kind of get at us. Any fault that can be found, and they will be found because we're imperfect. he uses it and he drills away at us and he says, you know, you're not worth it. You're not doing what you're supposed to. You're not really a Christian. I mean, come on, you didn't help that person you knew you're supposed to. You didn't claim that you knew Jesus then. You hid. You were afraid. And he bears it down. But right here, Jesus is making a distinction to say, I still claim Peter as my own. Regardless of what Peter did, he's still mine. I just went through hell, literally, for Peter. And then we turn a couple chapters over in Luke. At the very end of Luke, and we see Jesus is now reconnected with his disciples. And he has a special conversation with Peter right here. And this is what somebody pointed out to me. It says, when they finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? And he said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. So Jesus said to him, feed my lambs. So he said to him a second time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter replied, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. So Jesus told him, tend my sheep. A third time Jesus said to Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was grieved because he said this to him the third time, do you love me? And he said to him, Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you. And Jesus replied, feed my sheep. 3 times Peter said, I don't know Jesus. 3 times Jesus said, Peter, I still claim you as my own. In that passage right there, we see that Jesus had way beyond forgiving Peter for what he did. Jesus forgave him the moment he locked eyes with him. But beyond that, Jesus still claimed him. Jesus still wanted him. Jesus still had a purpose for him. Even though Peter had screwed up horribly. I mean, we think of the stuff that we've done. I've never stood face to face with Jesus and said, stab him in the back. I've denied it verbally, just like Peter, but I didn't do it to his face. And in spite of that, Jesus still looked at Peter and said, you have no idea what I have in plan for you, Peter. We go on to the book of Acts. Peter, literally, as Jesus said, becomes the rock of the church. Peter, this bumbling idiot fisherman. And back then, fishermen were the scum of society. They were, you did not go to school. You just wanted to be a fisherman. You could maybe sound out your name if you were lucky. And that was the height of your intelligence. I mean, we see all throughout the gospel, Peter's not a very bright man. He goes on and preaches a message in the beginning of Acts that saves 3,000 people in a couple hours. I've never seen somebody save 3,000 people. I mean, if all of you guys want to get saved tonight, I'll take that and start telling that to mine. I'm going to work towards my 3,000, but probably not going to happen in one night. But Jesus never held that against Peter. And the things that we do in life, when we mess up, when we deny Jesus, Jesus never holds that against us, not even for a minute. He never looks at you and says, because of that, I can't use you. Because of that, you're not worthy of doing this great thing. I'll let you only do this. You can stack the chairs on Sunday. That's it. That's your only purpose in life. Stack the chairs. He had something so much bigger than that. It may include stacking chairs. I stack chairs. It's a fun job. But he always has something much better than that, too. I've got a video that kind of goes along with this. Yeah, have you guys ever seen Skit Guys? Yeah. Okay, cool. So this is a video I found with Skit Guys. They kind of conveys this really, really well. Grover, if you'll kind of light that up. Back in the day, guys, disciples were somebody who followed after somebody else and tried to model their life after them. When Peter denied Jesus, it's kind of hard to be a disciple when you say you don't know that person. And Jesus knew that, and the devil knew that. And Jesus looked at him and said, because you technically may not be considered my disciple right now, Peter, I'm going to call you out by name so you know I'm still yours. And Laban, if you'll go ahead and come on up. Guys, I don't have any right or authority to preach to you. I don't have great wisdom and all that. The only thing I want to teach you guys tonight is I learn, we're going to mess up, and Satan's going to come at you, and he's going to tell you that you're a crud, you're a crap. There is nothing you can do to fix it. There's nothing you're going to amount to. I promise you he's going to tell you that. I want to stand right here and tell you guys, if nothing else tonight, that Jesus looks at each of you, and he says, no, you're mine. I still want you exactly how you are, because I've got something in store for you you can never imagine. You guys go ahead and bow your heads real quick. Like I said, I don't know each of you personally yet. I'm really sorry about that. My goal is to know all of you guys as soon as possible. I love hanging out here with you. Those of you that I do know, I've fallen in love with. You guys are awesome. You have amazing hearts for each other, for your passions, sports, school, different activities. And you guys also have an amazing passion for Jesus. So right now, if you're struggling with anything, if you have any doubt, anything that's going on that you're thinking, you know what, I'm not worth anything. I'm not good enough to serve God. I'm not good enough to have anything important in life. I'm not good enough to find happiness one day. Jesus has the perfect happiness for you. He has everything you could ever imagine. And he's literally standing there going, just come to me. You'll never understand. But just come to me, because I understand. I want all that you have, and I'm going to give you a million times more. So if there's anybody that doesn't know Jesus tonight, if you want to walk guys with me, it's nothing to be ashamed of. Most of the world, is still trying to find Jesus. I didn't know Jesus until I was 14. It's something awkward. I just want to give you that opportunity. I'm looking forward to spending the next couple months with you guys. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a great time. Like I said, I'm looking forward to all you guys are doing. I'm excited for the D-Now that's coming up. And I'm excited to see how God uses you, because it is so evident that He's got something special for you guys. So, Chris, I'd like to go ahead and ask you to come up. And Chris, you're just going to close us out in prayer.